So you're
Commence primary ignition.
Hi, this is author Timothy Zahn. You're listening to Virtual Cantina Network.
Hello there. Welcome everyone on the VCN to another edition of the News Desk as we are in the final countdown to Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025. I'm Mark Von Olen and I'm here with Gary O'Toole from Blob of the Hut, and we are in the final countdown. Gary, are you ready? Are you ready for Celebration?
I'm as ready as I can be, considering I ain't gonna be there. So yeah, I'm just about as ready as can be.
Same. So I was telling someone, because I keep getting the same question, are you ready for Celebration? I was like, well, I don't have to get on a plane. I don't have to convert my currency, and I don't have to gather any stuff to get signed or anything. But we are doing so much work behind the scenes, getting everyone else who is attending Celebration ready, that it does feel like I'm going on the trip in some ways.
Yep.
It's very chaotic, a little crazy right now. As you can see um, from the number, 27 days to go. And the news is coming fast and furious. So today on the news desk, we're going to be talking about all the panels that have been announced, because there's a lot of them. And there's other stuff to discuss as well. So that's sort of the plan for today. But Gary, you've been busy. You told me that you were at Dublin Comic Con. Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah, Dublin Comic Con last weekend, the 15th and 16th of March. So that's the spring edition. It's sort of the smaller, some people refer to it as more the anime version of Dublin Comic Con. So yeah, actually really good, quite busy. A real eclectic mix of guests as well. One thing that was particularly interesting this year was they had some of the senior editors from Marvel that were there doing like portfolio reviews and things like that for a lot of the artists. So that was a particular hit that went down well. Guests sort of varied. We had Maggie Robertson there, who is, Lady Demetrescu from is it Final Fantasy? No, not Final Fantasy. Jesus, I'm losing. But what was particularly interesting for us was we had some of the top Irish artists there. So everybody knows Will Sliney, who was the artist on Charles Soule's run of the Kylo Ren comic, which was just absolutely amazing. We had Rory Coleman, and in particular, one interesting one that was of particular of interest to us was a really talented artist named Rhys Hannigan, who is an Irish artist who is doing the art for the new Bad Batch comic, which just very, very recently dropped, and he's going to be coming on to have a little chat with us at some point down the line. So,
Oh, nice.
really looking forward to chatting with him. He's starting to get on the radar of a lot of people, so that's going to be a fun one.
That's fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah, and in this build up to Celebration, it seems like all the actors are out and about doing things and attending conventions, doing interviews. I've actually just started watching the new Pod of Rebellion that
Mhm.
the Rebels cast has put together. So
Yeah.
Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sircar, Taylor Gray, and their producer John Brody have a podcast all about Rebels. They're doing like behind the scenes making of kind of stuff, and they seem to be having a blast. So that's my new like must watch. Each week after having hosted a show about Rebels, now seeing them talk about the making of and everything each week is very cool, and it looks like they're going to be doing sort of episode by episode, which is fun.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, you can't fake that kind of camaraderie. They know each other so well and they get on so well. And I'm going to apologize to the gamers how on earth I mixed up Resident Evil with Final Fantasy. I will never know, but there you go.
I was telling someone recently there's too much pop culture to keep track of. My role at Ruby's is I'm the head of licensed product for all things costume, right? So
Hmm.
I'm constantly keeping an eye on all the different properties. And I was at Toy Fair a couple weeks ago, and I'm walking around and I was like, I don't know like a third of this stuff. Like, what is this brand? What is this license? And some of it's gaming. I'm not a big gamer, so I have to go look it up. Some of it is a TV show that's not at all, meant for me. A totally different demographic, target audience or whatever, or it's a book I've never read, and then I have to like constantly keep up with this stuff. So I feel like I'm just always on YouTube, always searching out what the next big thing is and trying to see what's going to break. And you can't predict it, and you don't know what's going to become like a giant hit and hit the pop culture, or what's going to actually resonate in licensed product is the other
Yeah.
thing. So I was telling everyone like the show to watch right now is Adolescence. We're not doing costumes for that, but that show's amazing.
And it's all done in one take. Each
Mm-hmm.
episode is done in one take. And Stephen Graham he's amazing.
Unreal. So that's the dad, right? Yeah. Yeah. So for everyone, this is not Star Wars related, but it's set in England. There are probably some background actors who have been in a Star Wars in some way, shape, or form. But it's a 4-part series, I think, on Netflix, right? Or at least it's Netflix in America.
Yeah, it's Netflix here as well. It only came out last week, but and it like Stephen, everybody knows the work that he does. I mean, he's been in so many Scorsese movies now. He's obviously very close with DiCaprio. But the most interesting tidbit of it was the young actor. I think it's Connor Ono calls him. He picked the one kid without any acting experience at all of every kid that auditioned for the role. That kid had no acting experience at all.
Amazing.
And just so happens now, I think he's working with Margot Robbie. So, a ballsy decision, but the proof is in the pudding because the show has been getting rave reviews since the get-go.
Unreal. Of all the TV I'm watching, this one obviously came out of nowhere, right? And it's a 4-part show. It's only 4 hours, but it is 4 separate episodes, like you said, one take for
continuous
each.
take. Yeah.
Which is crazy. I saw a little behind the scenes, and there's actually a drone shot mixed into one of the episodes. There's actually travel by car. There's many actors. It's not like a play where there's like 2 or 3 people on screen. Like the episode in the school had probably 100 people, which is crazy. So what's this right here?
Oh, just switch around my microphone is all.
It's I was like, do you have a drone?
little bit loose.
Yeah, so that show, technically, aside from being technically impressive, just like the acting's incredible, and the story is also really important, and also like heartbreaking. I was telling someone like it's not an easy show to watch. Like you watch the first episode, and I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but the premise, and it starts from the very beginning, is that a 13-year-old boy is arrested on suspicion of murder, and then what happens after that is the show, right? And you follow the family, you follow the kid, you follow the school, the teachers, the psych worker, all that kind of stuff, and you actually know what goes on early on, like the mystery is solved, but you're following the aftermath and the sort of I guess repercussions of everything, and it is wild. I've never watched a show just like I don't think I blinked for like an hour straight being like, what is happening? It's so good. Highly recommend. I realize it's not at all Star Wars related, but it's definitely, I think, some of the best TV on right now. That and Severance, which is what everyone is telling me to watch, and I'm behind. I'm still in season 1 of Severance, and apparently season 2 is basically over.
It hasn't picked up too much here in Ireland. I haven't actually watched it myself, but anybody I've talked to seems to be veering more towards adolescence than they are that. So I'm sure you can't go wrong with both.
Yeah, we're making a comeback to like prestige television. There was a point where streaming was just throw out everything and make a lot of television, and now I feel like we're returning to prestige TV. Even on the Marvel side, like you could argue that Daredevil Born Again is intentionally positioned as something that is like Emmy bait. It's very dark and brooding. All the boys seem to love it. Can I be that guy where it's like, I think it's fine. I think Daredevil Born Again is fine. I'm not losing my mind the way a lot of these other boys are. They're like, it's the best thing that Marvel ever did. I was like, first of all, Agatha All Along and WandaVision are the best thing that Marvel ever did. So we can stop right there. But like the Born Again aesthetic is meant to make it feel serious and awards worthy,
Well, for me, it's phenomenal because considering what it was going to be and all we know behind the scenes, the amount of changes that were done, that nobody was happy with it. So it's sort of returning to, let's say, its original DNA, which I think was vitally important. But the proof is in the pudding. And, if it's getting such recognition, rightly so, we need more gold standard TV. I mean, I know we're all waiting for Andor, which is
Mhm.
obviously going to be
Yes.
competition for that, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully that continues.
Yeah, I'm totally ready for Andor, and um, I need to see more Mon Mothma on my screen. I need to see the Gorman massacre, which I think we've seen it in the trailer. I think that that large crowd shot of lots of people standing
Yeah,
around
same.
um, is the Gorman massacre, and I'm ready for Mon Mothma. I'm ready for Genevieve to deliver in live action the way she delivered in Rebels with that speech. But I need to see what happens, and I need to see blood splatter on this woman. I realize that that's like straight out of a horror movie, but
Yeah.
like it's got to happen. We need to see the thing that like we need the turning point moment. And I think that Andor is going to give it to us because they've been keeping us waiting for a long time, right? It's been like 3 years since the show first came out, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Well, you know what my feeling on it is, if we're seeing Krennic again, I don't rule out the possibility at all that we might see Tarkin again.
Mm, yeah,
Like, could Guy
there.
Henry pull
Yeah, I here's my thought though. I feel like there's a legal issue with the Tarkin, like
the
who's
yeah, there was a lawsuit at some point, but I mean,
yeah,
from my perspective, putting all that aside, when it's a production of this scale, size, and magnitude,
yeah,
money talks. So
sure,
if they can do it, they'll
yeah.
do it. It's as
I would
simple
love
as
to
that.
see Tarkin. He's one of my favorite characters. I think that
Hmm.
Steven Stanton did such a great job bringing him to life in Rebels, and everyone who worked together to pull it off for Rogue One really
Yeah,
made it work. Guy Henry and everyone else, like
yeah,
it's a miracle that like Tarkin was not an uncanny valley hologram
yep,
in Rogue One, and that's
hmm,
almost 10 years ago.
yep,
And the technology has gotten significantly better since. So I would love,
yep.
and I would love for it to be like Tarkin's ship actually like lands on all these people and fucking crushes them the way it actually happens in the book, right? Like that would just be um, so heartbreaking and also just like wildly dismissive of these people as people, right? Like, and that's sort of the point, right? That the empire just doesn't have any care for their actual citizens.
Well, if ever there was a show and a moment to do it, this is it. What better
Hmm.
way to sort of have that turning point than innocent protesters being
Hmm.
completely massacred, if you'll pardon it, as the government. But why not drop a starship on everybody? Just
Yeah,
why not do it and showcase it? Maybe the VFX budget might go into it in some shape or form, but
would
you
use a
know,
little ship, just a little one.
yeah,
Um,
they potentially could. But if ever there was a time or an opportunity to do it, I think this is
mhm,
as good as it gets. If we don't see it here, I don't think we see it at all. But knowing
yeah.
Tony Gilroy, he'll probably have a couple of things up his sleeve.
And the show couldn't come at a more prescient time, too. I feel like with fascism on the rise, like worldwide, like
Hmm.
the commentary from Andor as a series is incredibly relevant. And
Yep.
so if they pull their punches now, it feels like you're capitulating. Whereas if you showcase the worst of the worst, maybe people will understand the point of the show. I feel like
Hmm.
you have to swing with a sledgehammer. Otherwise, people don't get it. Like there's like a real lack of media literacy right now, which is kind of wild because we've never been more inundated with media. And I was telling someone that as someone who went to a humanities high school and studied like more social studies and English literature and media literacy and all of these things that seem to have really taken a back seat to other topics, it's shocking to me how people can watch something on television and not understand the point. Like they can recap the plot and have no idea what it actually means, and that gap seems to be growing more than ever, despite the fact that there's more people like us on TV, on YouTube or wherever else discussing content, and you find out that like most people don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's actually like quite frightening.
Nothing surprises me nowadays,
Yeah.
as I would say to a lot of colleagues. God forbid, logic and common sense comes into the equation.
Yeah. Um, well, with that, on the Star Wars front, hopefully people will watch Andor and look, it's heavy-handed. People will get the message, and I just want it to be an enjoyable show as well.
And don't forget,
I
3 episodes at a time. So if you're looking to binge
Mhm.
watch, it's as good an opportunity as you'll get.
Yeah, we get a little movie each week. I'm
Hmm.
still really torn about the 3 episode thing. Like, I really wanted 12 weeks of like hanging on. But I wonder, here's the thing, Disney does a lot of consumer data, right? Like they do a lot of market research, and
Yeah.
they're a data driven company more than anything. They have probably figured out that most pop culture, whether it's a show, TV show, a movie, whatever, most pop culture franchises, when they have a beat or something, last in the conversation for about a month, if that, if you're lucky. Wicked is probably an example of one that like defied expectations, but otherwise, everything is here today, gone literally later that day, you
Hmm.
know? So if they decided that 4 weeks of Andor would give them the spike they need versus trying to drag it for 12 weeks and you would lose people throughout the algorithm, maybe people don't stay for 12 weeks because they lose interest. That might be the reason. It still kills me though, because I really wanted 12 weeks of discussion and this and coming on air and all that kind of stuff.
And they've got a rare opportunity to leave you with 3 cliffhangers each time.
Yeah, right. Because there's a big time jump. So it's the kind of thing where like we could not see exactly how something ends, and maybe you get a line about it at a later time. We're going to
Hmm.
have quite a bit of time jumping, and I think there's so much to pack in. I think it's going to be really fantastic television. I'm just dreading the fact that I know I'm going to have to sit there for an hour and a half the day that it comes out. Otherwise, you're immediately spoiled. Like
Yep.
that's the problem. I got to get home and watch. So,
Hmm.
and I'm hoping they're going to give us like a 9 p.m. Eastern time, some type of time to like tune in together as a community so we can all watch together and discuss. I miss the live TV interactivity. I would say break out Twitter, but don't do that. Maybe we'll just all Facebook message each other in the group. That might be the better answer.
To avoid spoilers as best possible.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, we're about 15 minutes in, and I know we're waiting for a few more people to join in on the chat. It is Saturday at 12 noon here in America, and it is actually like a nice day out for once. We're coming out of something of a cold spell, so I
Hmm.
think people are out and about. But I did want to start getting into the panels. Let me switch our layout and everything. Now, Gary, you looked at the panels. Obviously, we've got the big ones, that are
The
on the
anchor
celebration
panels, as we
stage.
would call them.
Yeah, the anchors, and then there's a whole slew of others as well. But as we're going through, I want to know what your favorites are, or is there something that you think is like a must-watch on the list?
Yeah, I've got two in particular that if I was there, they would be the ones that I would be hoping and praying for.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely a few that are like must-haves, and then I think some like hidden gems mixed in as
Yeah.
well. So what we did, so I recommend everyone go to the Star Wars Celebration website because guess what? It's finally been updated with some useful information. There's actually quite a bit of news that came out in the past 2 weeks. One was the full panel list, and one was a list of all of the vendors that are attending. And there's actually more than I expected because I know at one point there were concerns that not a lot of vendors were going to be at the show.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's going to be quite a number. But we're going to talk about panels today, and then I think on our next show we're going to do a deep dive into all the different vendors.
Yeah.
So the way we did this was we looked at each day by each stage because there are numerous stages. But as a starting point, we put together one slide of just everything happening on the celebration stage over the course of the entire show. So as a reminder, the show is Friday, April 18th, Saturday, April 19th, and Sunday, April 20th. So 3-day show. The celebration stage is what we would call the anchor panels. And these are the ones that you need to use the lottery to get into, basically. And it's the one that everyone's going to want to be in. It's the ones where you can expect the major actors are going to be, coming out and waving to the audience and answering questions. You'll probably get your first looks of footage from the various films and TV shows, and I mean, this is like your gold ticket A-level panel list right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so starting off Friday at 10 a.m., the first big panel of the convention, Mando and Grogu, the movie. So this should be your first look from everyone on the show. Oh, there goes my ring light. That's fine. I still look okay. The Dave Filoni produced or directed and written, and of course the whole cast, which includes Pedro and Brendan and that whole crew, Sigourney Weaver. It's going to be exciting to see our first cinematic for Star Wars since Rise of Skywalker.
By all accounts, a very, very low budget. Did I see something around like 166 million is the budget, which is one of the lowest?
I don't believe that for a second. I think
Hmm.
that they're going to try to say things like we're keeping the budget in, and then they're going to do reshoots, and then they're going to add more VFX, and then they're going to spend $300 million on marketing. So my feeling is I think this movie's a surefire hit regardless. Like people love Grogu, people love Mando. I think they'd actually be willing to go see a Star Wars in a theater. And certainly all of us have been screaming about, please give us a Star Wars in a theater. So I feel like that this will be a hit. I'm excited to see, what are they going to show us? Because we've seen little clips mixed into other things, but they're not really ready to show us a trailer yet. Like,
And you know what? Rightly so as well. I would be happy going in just to see this with no marketing. We know who's involved, we know who's behind the scenes, and we know what we can expect. But the one thing that shocks me more than anything else is this is going to be the first cinematic experience since The Rise of Skywalker.
mhm,
Like, for Star Wars and Disney, that's awful.
yeah,
Like, that's
um,
horrendous that we've had to wait this long.
it's a long time. I'm going to read the official description of this panel. So join Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and special guests for a sneak peek at what's to come for The Mandalorian and Grogu on their biggest adventure yet, this time on the big screen and in theaters 2026. And we know it's May of 2026.
Mhm.
But it lists who's going to be on the panels, and it has Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau listed. I'm sure you'll get the cast as well, but that's who's confirmed at least. So look, Filoni's the best. I love him. He's my favorite. You got to go to this. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only
After
thing
that,
is, I do hope if they are showcasing the Mandalorian, that all three are on stage and not just Pedro. I hope that
I
Lateef and Brandon are there as
Brendan,
well. Yeah.
I agree. Next up in the on the celebration stage, again, this is their biggest capacity stage, which is why it's called the celebration stage. Is Light and Magic, a glimpse into the magic of season 2. So the description: join us for a deep dive into the second season of Light and Magic. It's the TV show, the critically acclaimed documentary series chronicling the legendary journey of ILM. So ILM is celebrating 50 years. There's been a documentary series behind the scenes of how they've achieved everything they've done, the history of the company. And this is, I didn't realize they were making a season 2. Did you, Gary?
Nope.
Yeah, this is news to me. So we will, I don't know, they don't say who is presenting on this, but I can imagine ILMers, and I would maybe Doug Chang will pop in. Like,
Hopefully, and I would love to see Peter Curran in some shape or form. We were lucky enough to interview him a couple of years ago, so I think he would be incredible as well. Just, anybody who's been there from the very beginning that has that ILM DNA within them, I
mhm.
think that's a surefire win.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. The third panel happening on the celebration stage on Friday is Lucasfilm Animation's 20th anniversary, which is just fantastic. So this is another Filoni panel. So join Dave Filoni, who they then list as the Chief Creative Officer, and Athena Portillo, the Vice President of Animation Production, as we celebrate 20 years of Lucasfilm Animation's critically acclaimed stories and beloved characters, including a sneak peek at what's to come. And along with Athena and Dave Filoni, also David Collins is going to be there, who I love, love, love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a really fun one. Obviously, we've got, what do we have in the mix of animation? We've got Clone Wars, we've got Rebels, there's Resistance, there's Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire. I guess original Clone Wars, would that count?
I'd say so. You know what I want though? I want more nubs. I want more young. I want young Jedi adventures because I don't care what anyone says. That's the best thing in Star Wars right now is young Jedi adventures. It is
It's really fun.
absolutely phenomenal. But am I an outlier here? People in the chat are probably going to think I'm nuts, but I would rather be at the 20th anniversary animation than I would the Mando and Grogu. Because for
I
the longest time, there's been whispers and murmurs of new animated series happening, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, it would be amazing if on this panel they announced a new animated series, and that would be the gag. That would be incredible. We've after Bad Batch, I was like, well, what's next? You got to give me something else. So, and by the way, I love the Young Jedi Adventures.
It's incredible.
Nubs is a breakout star. Also, Darth Nubs is my spirit animal right there, from Lego. I just saw a thing, and I'm trying to. That's why I picked up my phone. I'm trying to figure out where we saw this, but I think Spencer sent this to our group chat yesterday. That there's going to be a Nubs, I guess,
Animatronic.
yeah, a
Yes.
character walking around.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It's in the there's an image of it in the latest email that went out. Hang on, I actually have it here. Let me see if I can
yeah,
find it for you.
it,
Um,
because I
I
looked, I was like, oh, that's a big Nubs. It's obviously a costumed character walking around that you can meet at Celebration. So that's great for the
uh,
kids because I feel like we don't do enough for like the little kids. There he is. Look at
yep,
him.
Kids
Um,
Corner.
Yep. Apparently, his species, because he's like a little kid, fully grown is like quite horrifying.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
yeah, like way scarier than like Wookiees and way bigger. So I'm curious to see what grown-up Nubs becomes. He's going to be over 7 feet tall, apparently.
That
So
would be that would be amazing. And by the way, people still to this day don't realize who voices Nubs, and it's somebody who voices everybody in Star Wars.
wait, who does voice Nubs? I don't remember.
D. Bradley Baker.
Of course he does. Why am I? Obviously, he's also Perry the Platypus, which is my
Yeah.
actual favorite. Yeah, amazing. Good for D. I'm gonna have to have him sign a Nubs thing next time I see him. All right, so that's day one on the celebration stage. So we're gonna stick with the celebration stage and get into day two on Saturday. Again, these are the big ticket gold level panels, and/or a Star Wars story. So, oh man, if I were to pick one, what a day on Saturday! I would just like camp out in the celebration stage because
Yeah.
Andor, Ahsoka, Clone Wars, you can't beat it. So in this one, it's a Tony Gilroy panel. He's the executive producer, and Diego Luna, and cast. So I don't know what that means. I don't know who's going because there's no one else other than like Alan Tudyk, who's actually like part of the show, is my understanding.
Hmm.
Um, for a sneak peek at the final season of Andor, and I can't believe it's the final season. This thing should be running for a decade. It makes me so angry. But yeah, everyone go to the Andor panel and cry.
It's the next one I think
Mhm.
proposes the most interesting things that are gonna come.
The Ahsoka panel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think the Ahsoka panel is the linchpin for many other things. So
Yep.
this one says join Dave Filoni and special guests as we look back at the first season of Ahsoka. Obviously, because they can't say sneak peek at season two, and they can't tell you that Ashley Eckstein's going to be there, even though we know she's going to be there. Come on now, what are we doing here? So I think that they'll announce some new cast members. I think
Yep.
they'll obviously have to reveal who is taking on the role of Balin Skull, because that has been a rumor for a little while now.
I think it's pretty much nailed on though with like has anyone else reported anybody outside of Rory? I think if
Mm-mm.
like
I also hope they just confirm a couple. Here's the thing. Sometimes I just want verbal confirmation that the thing we're all suspecting is actually going to happen so we can stop stressing about it. Like,
yeah.
tell us we're going to Mortis. Tell us you recast Ray. Tell us that, the adventure is going to focus on Ahsoka getting back to the main galaxy. Tell us that Asman Esfandi as Ezra is a main character. Like, give us basic details like that. Like, remember when Carrie Fisher died and people were like, "How are you handling the character of Leia?" And they had to put out a thing being like, "We're not bringing in a replacement actress. We're
Yeah.
using existing footage, and Billy Lord is going to help us with a couple of other things." That's all people needed to hear to take their anxiety from a 10 to a 5. Like, that's all it took. Can you bring my anxiety from a 10 to a 5 is all I'm asking on the Ahsoka front.
I I'm just wondering where's Hawk Hallis? That's
Yeah.
th-
Yeah. And who do you get to play him? I would love to see some Callus. And why is he not with Zeb? Did they break up? I have a lot of questions.
yeah.
So, all right, continuing in the celebration stage on Saturday, and I will say, if I could do this on the big screen with 1,000 of my friends, like Siege of Mandalore, like let's go. So the 4-part arc that makes up the cinematic final chapter of the critically acclaimed Star Wars: The Clone Wars. This was obviously supposed to be in theaters until the pandemic hit, and they never quite got to do it the way they
To do it
wanted
as
to.
such. Yeah.
I'm so glad it's showing on a big screen, and I really wish they would release it in theaters. I'd go pay money to see it on the big screen, without a
It,
doubt.
it would be brilliant, but you know what? I wouldn't be too sad on missing out on that quite simply because it's something that we actually can watch at
Yeah.
home now, if you needed to. I'm sure you could, rent out if you wanted to. There could be events on where you could rent out a theater room and find some way to broadcast it. It could be done, but that's the type of event I wouldn't mind missing out on too much because I think that's going to be a day where everyone is going to be hoping to get to Andor and Ahsoka, and that evening then I think will be a little bit quieter. So
Mhm.
if you are looking around to go and check out the vendors, check out Artist Alley, check out the exhibitors, that's probably going to be a good time to do it after the Ahsoka panel, because if people are there for the main two, if they manage to get into do we even know the status if they're going to have many overflow rooms, or is that still sort of up in the air?
Yes, because the main panels from the celebration stage are being simulcast onto other stages. So if
Yeah,
you go to those rooms, that's basically your
we
overflow.
have got the overflows.
Yeah.
There we go. So
Yeah.
if that's the
We've
case,
got
then when
several
those
actually. Yeah.
okay, well there we go. If that's the case, then when they're all done, a lot of people are going to hightail it out of there. So
Mhm.
that might be a perfect opportunity do some shopping or whatever
Mhm.
you want to do. So, but still amazing to see on a big screen. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going all the way to Japan and you're at Celebration, this is probably not a must do, unless they were saying the Clone Wars cast members were going to come out and like maybe do some commentary throughout. Like that would be interesting. Like if Ashley and Matt and James were like on stage, like talking through some of it while it's happening, like that might, or Sam, that might be worth something. But
Why
otherwise, like yeah.
you've just mentioned like why are they not guest listed?
So, yeah, Matt and James not being on the guest list is really weird, and also Sam being there is
Being there,
weird.
but yeah,
Yeah, which made people very suspicious. But like, I like
y-
here's the thing: Ashley is a must-have.
yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's anything new coming, and maybe there's a reason that Matt and James aren't going. I'm not 100% sure, but the guest list is very tight, like very 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 small. And again, it's a 3-day show, and it's mostly live action and it's mostly main cast. But even then, like it's small. Like where's my Andor supporting players? Like
Where's the photo up with the Mickelson brothers? That's what I want to know.
yeah, the fact that Lars is not going is weird. I guess you know what? I bet you he shows up for the panel. Um,
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, but at that point, it's like if you're bringing them in for the panel, like have them sign autographs. Like it's got to be. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Not for look. I've been through this. It's a tough thing to do. It is a
Yeah.
challenge. I don't want to make it seem like this is an easy event to plan. It is not. All right. Last day on the celebration stage. Visions season 3 first look. Heroic sidekicks of Star Wars and the closing ceremonies. So Visions season 3 obviously is going back to be anime.
Anime, yeah.
So celebrate the first 2 volumes of Star Wars Visions and the animated anthology's anticipated return to anime. Hear from new and returning studios as they share a sneak peek of their Volume 3 shorts. So I guess we'll get a peek at the new ones. That's exciting. So that's some
Yeah.
animation coming our way.
Yeah, that's one I would love to be at. I think if you're seeing new anime actually while you're there in Japan, I think that's pretty much as good as it gets.
Mhm. The next one is a little hodgepodgey. This is the heroic sidekicks of Star Wars. It's actually moderated by Ashley, which that's very cool, and includes Ahmed Best, who plays Jar Jar Binks, Anthony Daniels, who's C-3PO, and Alan Tudyk, who's K-2SO, and they're going to do behind the scenes and look at their performances as sidekicks in Star Wars. So it's kind of like they took the guest list and they're like, what do we have people in common? Let's go. But you know what? Ahmed Best, I'm ready. I would sit there and just listen to him for an hour. I'm in.
Yeah, and did you see his post? He's actually looking to collab with I think Japanese designers for his clothing for Celebration. I seen a post that went up I think earlier today. It might have gone up the other day
Oh,
that
fun.
he's looking to collab. That's brilliant. But heroic sidekicks of Star Wars. Why no Chopper?
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe he'll roll out on stage. He doesn't get a credit.
He better.
There better be a chopper that rolls around somewhere because whenever I go to a Comic Con, whoever has made a chopper becomes my best friend, and I make sure I get a photo with him.
Yep.
Especially now that I have like a decent Ezra cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, and the last panel, of course, is closing ceremonies. So gather with your friends and fellow Star Wars fans to relive the best moments of the weekend and bid farewell to another Star Wars celebration featuring special guests, weekend highlights, and much, much more. This is a send off you won't want to miss. And they will likely, they always put together that clip
And
show
now,
that they
and then
gather.
next date.
Exactly, which, I'm a betting man. 2027 Anaheim, let's go.
Anaheim or Orlando. I think it has
Yeah.
to be. It's one or the other.
Without a doubt, I think like the Vegas odds would put Anaheim at 40% and Orlando at 30% and then 20% or 30% for anything else, right?
You think
Like
they're gonna take it? Do you think they're gonna take another year out again?
yeah, they're not
Leave it
doing
till 2026?
26. Yeah,
Okay.
they're not doing 20. I think they have to wait for the 50th. Like, and I think we have D23 and then I think after the 50th, you really have to evaluate whether Star Wars Celebration as a standalone event makes a lot of sense when we have D23 and other things like should Star Wars and Marvel combine to do something? Because I gotta be honest, there's not enough Star Wars content to support this. There
And
just
there's
isn't.
so many people that miss Star Wars weekends as well, by
Oh
the
my
way.
God, please just do that instead. I'm dying to go to Star Wars
You,
weekends
you
again.
see the pin setup on my wall? That's
Look,
that's one of the limited edition Star Wars weekends one. I can't remember what year that was, but yeah, that's pretty special. Star Wars weekends were class.
oh my God. We went in 2010, 2012, and 2015. And let me tell you, like, it's the best events we ever went to. And it's infuriating that those got canceled because of, trying to make everything make sense and have canon and Galaxy's Edge as part of the story. Just have fun. I'm so sick of I scream it every time. It's like Star Wars should be fun. It shouldn't feel this serious. All right, we're gonna have to fly through the rest of the panels, but I do want to
Let's do it.
stop and point out anything that we think is really, really interesting.
Well,
Um,
there's one there that's very, very important to me.
and which one's that? The 501st.
10:15. 10
Yep.
15.
Yep, absolutely. So do you know people who are going to be on that panel by any chance?
I don't actually know what garrisons are there or who's looking after. I'm not 100% sure. There will be lots of 501st members there, obviously, but I'm not sure who's actually taken to the stage for the panel.
So the way we broke this up, yeah, and if we do know anyone who's hosting, we'll make sure we let you know. Honestly, the website has details about all of these, and so you can see like who's going to be who's going to be hosting in certain cases. Some of them are not filled out in a way that makes any kind of sense,
Hmm.
but we broke this up by stage. So the Galactic Senate stage, sort of, every stage kind of has a theme to it. Like this feels very costuming groups, right? So we've
Yep.
got the opening greetings. The 501st has theirs at 10:15. The Saber Guild is doing lightsaber training the whole time. I actually have quite a number of friends in the Saber Guild here in America, in New York
Hmm.
specifically. So they're doing kids lightsaber trainings. We've got a Women of Star Wars costuming across the galaxy. Another Saber Guild thing at 1 o'clock, and that's a story. Like they actually have like a setup where there's they'll lightsaber fight, but they'll tell a story with it, which is very cool.
Yep.
The Mando Mercs, who are not 501sters, but they are a costuming group and they don't necessarily build canon characters. They're really, really fun because they do a lot of personalization. So
Yep.
they're at a lot of conventions here in America. They seem to be growing pretty significantly.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of Mandos appearing now in Ireland as well
yeah.
from
Oh, for
her.
sure. Because you just want to make your own character. I kind of want to be me
Hmm.
as who are you within Star Wars? Um, and then there's another Saber Guild lightsaber training at that same time. And then how cosplay changed my life. And then this is really fun, a hope relay by the Rebel Fleet Troopers. So I was like, oh, is this them delivering the plans of the Death Star to Princess Leia? And that's exactly what that is. So there's like a bunch of them who are going to be doing a run of some type. So it's going to seem, I guess, highly choreographed to get to a Princess Leia and deliver the Death Star plans. And I'm assuming a Darth Vader is going to chase and kill a lot of them. So that sounds great.
And could potentially be done in tandem with the Wilrow Hood run. I'm not sure, but that'll be happening as well. So
Yes, there's a time for that, and I already saw it, and we didn't put it on here, but we'll probably have to come back next week with like the other like random events to see because
yeah.
there's also going to be a VCN family portrait. There's
Hmm.
the run of Wilrow, the ice cream run as I call it. There's also going to be a one way out run up the escalators, so that's going to be a thing. And again, I'm going to remind people wear shoes because gross. So yeah, there's a lot to do. All
Yep.
right, that was the first stage, Galactic Senate stage, just for Friday. So the next stage is the fan stage. And so this one, we've got quite a few panels on the first day as well. Living your Star Wars story in the theme parks. There's a panel then about why the villains are cooler, the dark side. Star Wars in the 90s. One Galaxy, the costume fan groups, and that would include, I think, the 501st, the Mando Mercs, etc. And
Hmm.
then my panel that like I would definitely have to attend. This is my like diamond in the rough kind of choice. Senator Rebel Chancellor, who is Mon Mothma?
Well, if you're not going to be able to attend that, you should read Mask of Fear, the new trilogy. You should get into it. If your Mon Mothma is right up your alley, then the new trilogy will serve you well.
hmm She is. I'm sad that Genevieve's not going to be there, but and I've got to meet her. She's someone that I don't. She doesn't ever come to America for conventions, but she's a must-have on my Rebels poster, and I'd have to get multiple things signed by her. I have a Rogue One poster that has almost no one on it. But like I'd have to add her to that. So Genevieve would be one of those. Who was like, I have 17 things for you to sign, ma'am. It would be like very that. um,
She's one of our. She's Irish. It's all good.
yeah, I love her. You let me know if you cross paths with her. It's a small country, right?
I
Like there's
will.
there's there's
Yeah,
an odds.
absolutely. There
um,
could be definitely.
all right, let's see what is next on the collector stage. Okay, this is where I would actually like live, right? Like the collector stage is kind of my jam. I worked in collectibles for a long time. There's a social every morning at 9:30 for people to meet up. The thing at 11, I had to read what this was, the first shot. So this is one of those. Let me pull this back up on the panel list. The filtering on here is actually really easy to use. You just choose your stage, um,
Hmm.
and then you can click right in. Where did it go? There, the first shots. I want to read this one. When The Empire Strikes Back was released in Spanish movie theaters on October 30th, 1980, kids still weren't able to get their hands on action figures. They had to wait a few more months until May of 1981 when the Spanish firm PBP began distributing the first figures in Spain. Luckily for collectors, one of the technicians involved in the toy line saved the first shots. So that's what a first shot is, right? The final
Yeah.
production samples. So the production samples that were given to him by PBP in recognition for his work, they're going to look at those on the panel. So there are first
Nice.
shots of the action figures from Spain. How random and cool is that?
I'm just glad I'm not at the 1231 because I would be so screwed. I can literally just open the drawer here
Oh
and
no.
pull out literally anything you're looking for, collectibles we can find. So I'm so happy I'm not there for that one.
Coins, medallions, patches. Yeah, I'm all into that. I mean, I worked in trading cards. There isn't a trading card panel or a tops panel, but um,
Hmm.
that would be right up my alley. There's also a specifically Japanese collectibles panel at 2 o'clock, and then how the Star Wars collecting age began, which is sort of a history at 3:30, and then specifically Japanese vintage toy oddities at 5 o'clock. So if you're a collector, that's why we broke this up by stages like this. This is a thematic of like you could just camp out here all day and like learn about
Yep.
all the various collectibles.
And again, it'll be a case of for some people going to Celebration, they have absolutely no interest in the anchor panels. This is
Hmm.
the type of stuff that they are there for.
Yeah, and the anchor panels will likely get streamed at some point, so you have a chance of watching those online, at least in pieces. Most of these might be recorded individually by someone on their phone, but they're certainly not going live over like the Celebration feed. Um, And then the Galaxy stage is a little bit of a this is one of the like
Mismatch.
carry. Yeah, it's also the carryover room, right? So at 10 a.m. the Mando Grogu panel is going to be streamed, and they're also going to stream the Lucasfilm Animation's 20th anniversary. But between that, they've got some publishing things. There's a manga event at noon, and then Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away at 2. And then Doug Chang has a panel at 5 where he talks about Skeleton Crew. That's the only Skeleton Crew content that I saw in the panel list. So if you care about Skeleton Crew, this is your shot.
Yep, it's almost as strange to me as there being one actor from the Acolyte that this is literally the only thing Skeleton Crew. It
Hmm.
doesn't make sense.
There's also no Skeleton Crew actors at the on the official celebration, but the VCN is bringing in KB. So to our event at the Not So
Hmm.
Virtual meetup. So yeah, we are paying homage to Skeleton Crew. Um, okay, let's go to the HoloNet stage next. So this is more of like fan podcasts and things like that. Who's the Boss? Explore the Force. Star Wars video games. I looked up a lot. I forgot what the acronym is. I'm going to pull that up right now. We have too many. I have too many tabs open over here, which is always how it goes. It's the HoloNet news stage. Uh, description. What was it like before the first Star Wars celebration? Let's take a look back at the 1997 Arizona Star Wars Convention. So that's what it is, the 1997 Arizona Star Wars Convention. So we shall see. Um,
Old school.
yeah, I mean, that's going back. 97 feels like 1,000 years ago now because we're in 2025, but like I was in high
Yeah,
school. How'd this happen?
my
When
mem.
did this become vintage?
Yeah, my memories of that are in black and white.
Right? And I was a Star Wars fan in 97, but I was not a fanatic. Like, I didn't become a fanatic for Star Wars until I really started working on the brand. Like, I always liked Star Wars, and
Hmm.
and I grew up with Ewoks, like I always say. Like, so it came in waves for me. But 97 was a little bit of a like, well, I guess I watched the original trilogy in the theater when they brought it back when they were getting ready
Hmm.
for Phantom Menace. But I wasn't like a ride or die for the brand, you know. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, this is inescapable. So yeah, you can catch some interesting podcasts on this stage. The next one is the Twin Sun stage. So this is another one where they're going to have the streams happening from the celebration stage. So the Mando Grogu, again, if you can't get in, this is your overflow room, 10 a.m. There's also then a Hasbro Star Wars panel, which that should be really interesting because they've done, with Pulse. Obviously I've got my Ghost. They've got a number of new Black Series, coming.
Would you believe I still haven't opened my Ghost yet? It's
You
still
haven't
sitting
opened
in the
it,
box.
girl. What are you
Haven't
doing?
had haven't had a chance.
It was actually, like, pretty fast. I made my husband build it, as I tell people all the time, and by built it,
Yeah.
it's like 5 clicks. Like, the whole thing it took longer to open the pieces of the box and take them
Then
out,
it
like,
actually did.
the unboxing video that I did on the VCN, which was just me in my pajamas, like, opening the boxes, was all of, like, a half an hour. That's as long as it took, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make my husband build this." He was done in 10 minutes. Like, it was
Yeah,
that fast.
I'm seriously lagging behind. I've got the Ghost to open, and then sitting there, I've got a Hot Toys Thrawn and
Mm,
a Hot Toys Chopper that I still haven't opened yet. So I really need
you
to get
gotta
a
get
move
that
on.
you gotta get that chopper out for sure. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I know you love Thrawn. I know he's your go-to. Is he your
yeah.
favorite Star Wars character, like, full stop?
Um, Predominantly yes, him or Anakin, but Thrawn was just somebody who I was always fascinated with. And again, like a lot of people know, I wrote a college paper on him, and I have
Mhm,
pretty much every collectible going. Like every single Thrawn thing that's around here is either signed by Timothy Zahn or
mhm,
has passed through at some point. So yeah, but Thrawn would be kind of my go-to. I think a character who has no special powers other than his mind. It's like Thrawn knew, and you're going, of course he did. He's Thrawn.
mhm.
I think that's just as interesting as a space wizard.
Yeah. I mean, he's the smartest person in the room at all given moments.
Yeah,
So, that's almost a superpower in and of itself.
yeah.
It's interesting because my favorite character really is Ezra. The more I think about like who my top 5, 10 is, it always includes the same several people. There's always Ezra and Ahsoka and Mon Mothma in there and Leia. There's a stack of them, but Ezra kind of rises to the top. So it's funny that we've got our competing characters in
Hmm.
our one slot over here. It makes for a great fight between Ezra and Thrawn because Ezra is so naive he can't compete with Thrawn's intelligence, and Thrawn is so smart, he doesn't see like the weird out of nowhere stuff that Ezra pulls to like save the day in the end. It makes for like a really great tension between the two of them. Um,
Well, that was the only thing that was ever going to beat Big Blue, was something that was completely out of his
yeah.
line of sight. And
Oh
when
yeah,
we
a
say,
0% probability event.
yeah.
Those Purgle man, it's crazy. All right, so Twin Sun stage, at Hasbro. Then we've got a vision screening. So again, screenings. If you're looking to maybe have some downtime, maybe watch something you haven't seen, maybe experience something with a group of people, which always feels a little bit different. The Duel and the Pit from Star Wars Visions. Interestingly, my favorite episode from Visions season 1 is the Ninth Jedi.
Hmm.
So curious to see like if that gets any traction in season 3. And then there's another Japanese specific panel, so telling stories across cultures, Star Wars and Japan, and then plastic models expanding the Star Wars galaxy. So that should be really interesting.
Hmm.
Moving then to the university stage. There's so many stages, you guys, but that's all the stages. University stage is the last one on our list. So for day 1, we've got Star Wars TV ads running through the years, which I am so excited for this one. This is another one of my dark horse panels. There's like someone has to record this for me. I want to see the TV ads because I
Hmm.
want to see the trailers that they use for the movies, but also for like the action figures and all the other merch, like and the Ewoks movies and cartoons and shit. Like I remember seeing commercials for this stuff where it's like first time on TV, Return of the Jedi, and there's like an Ewok throwing something. Like, I want to see this stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Ahsoka's Underworld, or Origami Workshop, and then our favorite word in the entire Star Wars encyclopedia, midichlorians.
Yep.
I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that, especially now that M count is like kind of back.
Yeah. We seen it in Kenobi. We seen it in Bad Batch, and it's drawing ever closer into mainframe again. So let's see where they go with that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then we've got the George Lucas Super Live Adventure Hour. I'm not even 100% sure what this is about. 1993, audiences across Japan got to see a live stage show that was a magical tribute to the cinema of George Lucas. They saw Willow, Tucker, Indiana Jones, American Graffiti, and Star Wars, all live, featuring singing, dancing, and even a live tiger. Join Jason and Gabe from Blast Points podcast as they take you through a historical journey on how this happened, and what it was like, why it's such an amazing moment in Star Wars and Lucasfilm history. I've never heard of this, and I
Mm-mm.
know I read this like a week ago when I was first pulling this together. I completely forgot because it's
Blanked.
that's so surreal,
Yeah, that's so out there.
so weird. All right, that's Friday. What's your pick for panel of the day on Friday? Maybe other than the the main ones, because I feel like Mando Grogu is probably the one, right?
For me, it would have been the animation one. That was my
I
one
agree.
over Mando and Grogu. But with something like this, I think I'd have to go to midichlorians one.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I agree with you that I think the animation panel is going to be killer, and then I also need to go to my Mon Mothma panel
Yeah.
on the fan stage at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, I'm going to do a little virtual. I'm not even going to the show, but I'm going to do my own little virtual watch along
Yeah.
for all this stuff. Of course, 4 p.m. is I think like 2 a.m. if I'm doing my math right or something. It's something terrible. So it's
Yeah.
either 6 a.m. or 2 a.m. I forget the direction, but um,
Well, you know what?
yeah.
I think if we're going back, I think they put in like the worst time for Doug's panel at 5 o'clock in the evening, where if most people have been queuing overnight, well, we know what the queuing first thing in the morning session is like.
Uh-huh.
People by then, I think, are just going to have run out of caffeine and
Yeah.
juice. So,
Yeah, Doug will draw a crowd though.
of
People
course, he
love
will.
him. So, um, all right, on to Saturday. Um, the again, the big panel for the day is Andor on the celebration stage.
Yeah.
But the Galactic Senate stage has another costuming panel. The Saber Guild is back with their lightsaber training. The Rebel Legion has a panel about high fashion costumes in the prequel era. Saber Guild has another story-driven event, the Tales of the Lightsaber. Mando Mercs are back, telling you how to do some Mando armor, which is very cool. I highly approve of that.
Mm-hmm.
Another Saber Guild kids lightsabing training that happens every day, basically. Of Siths and Smugglers, the Dark Empire Costuming Club, and then 5 o'clock Team Asia. So this is all of your costuming and trooping kind of groups, which is really really fun. By the way, I love the Saber Guild. I know they're not as well known as like the 501st. But they do really great stuff and they do a lot of stuff with the kids as well. So if
Mm-hmm.
anyone has a chance to check them out, please do. Next up is the fan stage. So what Star Wars teaches about mental health, inclusion, and belonging. So I'm glad that there's a panel on this because I think a lot of people come to Star Wars to see themselves seen on TV, on screen, to disconnect from like the problems going on in the real world. Even though Andor hits a little close, and sometimes something hits close, and it's like, ugh. It's like I think that happened in the actual news. But I think that'll be a really interesting one. There's also a
And
panel on shadow puppets.
I was going to
Um,
say the panel at 10 is probably a really relevant topic considering how divisive the fandom is as the last
mhm,
couple of years.
yeah. You know what's so interesting? I was at Celebration 2019, um, having a conversation because this was after the sort of backlash on Last Jedi and everything else, and there was just like a lot of toxic nonsense in the fandom in 2019, right? And like this was before COVID and everything else. And people were referring to Celebration 19 as very healing. Like it was the kind of thing because like the online discourse in 2018 was terrible. And
Yeah.
then the real life event in 2019 was amazing because the
Hmm.
people actually go to Celebration and spend money on this stuff and want to make content about Star Wars who attend Celebration are actually people who like the brand and like the people involved and care about it. And they're not here trying to monetize hatred. They're actually trying to connect with each other and form community.
Yeah.
All right, continuing on the fan stage, after the Shadow Puppets, we've got Jedi Fallen Order, which
Yes.
is amazing. You love that game, right?
Oh, I love both of them. Yeah, yeah. And it was a big topic of conversation from at our panel at Dublin Comic Con as well. I'm so excited for 3. It's just a shame it's ending, but my God, I hope we get to see live action
Mhm.
Cal Kestis.
Oh, it'd be so good. Yeah, if we could pull him into Andor just for a moment, just to show that he's there doing stuff,
If
I
only
wouldn't
we could
mind that
find
kind of
an
Easter egg.
actor to play him.
Exactly. Oh my God. What are we doing? Everyone wants him in live action. Just do it. Like sometimes when the fans ask for something, the answer should just be yes. I'm not saying every time, but in this case, like it makes sense.
But isn't it funny when the likes of when they listened to what happened with Daredevil,
Hmm.
that they weren't happy with things, they changed it, and look at the recognition it's getting. Sometimes
Yep,
listening to the fans does make a difference.
exactly. No, I totally get it. Um, Up next after that is Star Wars memorabilia, and then the art of Star Wars Japanese vegetable carvings. That should be really interesting. And I would say, look, you're going to Japan. Like, try to find some culturally relevant things to see while you're there. I realize
Yep.
that this is all still through the lens of Star Wars, but I hope people are also tacking onto their trip to like do um, tourist things in Japan, and not just Disney, but like actual Japanese things.
Yeah.
The next stage is the collector stage. Again, my home over here. So there's a social again at 9:30. There's homemade Star Wars crafts, some tips and tricks on how to do those at 11. Vintage Keshigomu, which I didn't know anything about, but they're rubber erasers. So that should be really cool. Then a bottle caps panel, a Galactic Toy Story panel at 3:30, and then vintage die cut delights from Japan at 5 o'clock. So again, Japanese specific. So two of those panels are Japanese specific. So you could learn about, what type of product did they have in Japan, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next up on the Galaxy stage, we've got the stream from Andor and the stream from Ahsoka. And then Oscar Isaac has his own panel, so that's cool. He could probably talk about Moon Knight. I wouldn't dare ask him about Apocalypse, but I would want to know what's happening next. Maybe he's going to come back for Marvel Secret Wars.
Could
Right?
possibly.
Maybe.
Stranger things have happened.
Yep. Maybe we can get him in the new Ray movie for 2028 or something.
Possibly could. The one at 4:30 is the most interesting one for me. I was delighted when I actually saw Respawn's name.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what they're going to be doing there. All right, next up on the panels on the Holonet News stage, we've got Talking Bay 94, and then Star Wars Geek Girl, Cantina Japan, Blast Points, and the Dad Batch. So these are basically all your fan site podcasts and YouTubers. So if you don't know any of these people, check them out. Click into the Star Wars Celebration webpage, read a little bit about them, see who they are. They're obviously positive voices in the fandom. I'm familiar with Talking Bay 94, Star Wars Geek Girl, and the Dad Batch. I've heard of the Blast Points podcast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know Cantina Japan, but that's how we find out about these people, right?
Yep.
I was actually on the lookout for a Star Wars Explained podcast, but they're not doing one this year. They're attending the show, but they're not having a podcast.
Fanta are there as well, aren't they?
There's a Making Tracks somewhere. Yes, they'll be there. Actually, I just spoke to Mark Newbold last week. Did a little interview with him to talk about what's going on with Denuo and all things on the VCN. It's always interesting when I talk to him because it's like we're friends, and I'm talking through the lens of a licensee, and I'm talking on behalf of the VCN, and it's like here are the three buckets we're covering. It's always got so much Star Wars. All right, the Twin Sun stage. The last one on here is. One more after that. Andor streamed on the Celebration stage, and Ahsoka streamed from the Celebration stage. Then Doug Chang has a panel. Dude, this would be the one.
That's the one. That's that's it.
Yeah, just hang out there. Hang out on the Twin Sun stage. You'll get to watch the streams and then see Doug Chang. And then there's a cosplay showcase right after that. And then the last one on Saturday. I got my color wrong on this one. It's still Saturday. I made everything in blue on Saturday in blue. Except for this one because Sunday starts orange. We've got the story of the faithful Wookiee, Ewok, and droids, science of Revenge of the Sith, secret miniatures of the Star Wars prequels, Star Wars art and design, education and more, and then how young Indiana Jones paved the way for the prequels. And I love young Indiana Jones. I wish they would bring that back. I don't know why it's not on Disney Plus. Like that's the kind of thing that makes me crazy.
It never really came out here. I don't think a lot of people wouldn't be familiar with it.
Yeah, it's I think a hidden gem. Like people, it's sort of forgotten at this point in the pop culture. Meanwhile, I forgot to mention Ray was saying that Blast Points podcast is really good.
Yeah.
So I follow so many Star Wars fandoms, like podcasts, like fan groups, and the only one that I tune in regularly, other than Blabba, obviously with Gary
Thank
here, is Star Wars Explained. And we have so much programming on the VCN too. My drives home are usually like the show that I was supposed to watch the night before. Like I'm listening to Unifying Force like Tuesday, even though the thing drops on Sunday. I'm doing my catch up on stuff. And there's so many people I know in the fandom. Like I know Dan Zia from Coffee with Kenobi, and he's actually taking a little vacation at the moment.
Okay.
But like I was like, oh, I got to go back and listen to some stuff because I'm way behind.
Love Coffee with Kenobi as well, though.
One of the best. Like he's someone from 10 years ago when I started in the fandom. He was one of the first podcasts I ever did. And he put me on air like pretty early in my career at Tops, and that was a blast. And Frank Rich put me on for celebrating autographs, and there's just so many great creators out there.
Well,
so
I mean, you already mentioned Mark, so anything with Fanta Tracks is top class as well.
Yeah. I'm looking for where their panel is. I know they have something on Sunday, which actually, yeah, this brings us to Sunday now. So Sunday, April 20th, the final day. Again, there's obviously a main stage event. On the celebration stage, they're doing Vision Season 3 first look and the heroic sidekicks of Star Wars and the closing ceremony. But then on the smaller stages, on Sunday, the first one, the Galactic Senate stage, we've got 25 years of the Japanese garrison. Do you know anyone in the Japanese garrison?
Only through online connections, nobody personally.
Yeah, it's tricky because like it's not like I mean they're what 10,000 501sters across the world, right? But like it's
Oh,
not
I
like we're
wouldn't
all
even.
traveling around or something.
No. Well, there will be a lot of guesting troopers from different garrisons, all right. But I don't even know what the numbers are for us at the moment worldwide. It's I wouldn't even hazard a guess right now.
hmm It's definitely in the thousands. I don't know.
Oh, it is.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
probably I'm thinking
absolutely.
tens of thousands. I don't know what the yeah. It's a big. I feel like every convention I go to, I meet more and more of them. Kathy Chase, who is is our like event director here at the VCN. She's a 501ster. Whenever we go to Rhode Island Comic Con, we almost like set up camp at the 501st Rebel Legion area.
Yep.
Because she's obviously always working for things there, and they're always like so gracious with all of us.
Hmm.
Yeah, great group. So I'm curious to see what the Japanese garrison has planned because I'm sure the bash is going to be amazing
Oh
and
yeah.
everything they do at the show is going to be awesome. Um, After that, continuing on the Senate stage, we've got the Galactic Academy, the TNU campus, Bandai model cover artist, Hide- Hit- Hide- Hidetaka Tenjin. I'm this morning. I woke up with such a headache and I can't pronounce anything today.
Me no talk, no good. Proper.
Yeah, it's very that. And then Saber Guild is back with lightsaber trainings. They've got droid builders, the Rebel Legion Medal of Bravery ceremony, so that should be really fun. And then the fan groups have their own closing ceremony before the
Everyone
big
should go
closing
see the
ceremony.
droid builders. It's
Yes,
absolutely amazing what they do.
uh, one of my favorites at Rhode Island. Like I get pictures with all the different droids, and they keep popping out new ones. It's like
Yep.
how do people have time for this? This is insane. It's amazing. I'm very impressed by all the droid builders.
Yeah, they are incredible for what they do.
The next batch of panels on the fan stage, we have women in Star Wars cosplay, and then Padme's closet cosplaying Star Wars royalty, around the world with Wars, and then Carabas costumes. So all costuming basically on the fan stage on the final day, which is really fun. And that Padme one, I'm sure, will be fabulous.
Hmm.
On the collector stage, we've got vintage Star Wars toys and Lego Star Wars. Visual storytelling, Star Wars toy photography. Now that's really cool because like I love seeing action figure photography. Obviously, NECA, which is our parent company, they do a lot of photography for their action figures and everything, and they do a lot of stop motion videos to promote their stuff. So I just
Yep.
love all of that.
Yeah, I love it as well. A couple of years ago, we got interview Kim Simmons, the man who shot Luke Skywalker, who did a
Ooh,
lot of the older photo shoots for the toys and the promotional images. Just absolutely phenomenal. So that'll be a fun one for sure.
that's amazing. We then have Star Wars around the house, which I'm guessing is all like the housewares, and then fragile items and ceramics. So lots of different collectible types there. On the next stage, which is the Galaxy stage. Again, this is your overflow for the streaming stuff. So Vision Season 3 first look, so that'll be streamed from the celebration stage. This one's really interesting. ILM behind the scenes on the Mandoverse. So it should cover Mando, Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. I would think Skeleton Crew as well, though it just had an and more. And so I don't know if that's also going to include Acolyte or whatever else, but ILM behind the scenes, I'd love to see some of the making of, especially on the more recent stuff like Skeleton Crew and Acolyte. That
Well,
would be
it'd be
amazing.
interesting if they did include the acolyte, and it's like here's one actor.
Yeah,
Bit of
yeah.
a
Come on, Manny. Come on up. You're going to represent the entire franchise. This very female-led franchise. Here's Manny Jacinto. Um, I will say though, he's the breakout. Like his character,
it's
this
fantastic.
ranger,
He was
he's
fantastic for what
amazing.
he did. Absolutely,
Yeah. And look, I tell people all the time, like he is an underrated actor in Hollywood and has been for a very long time.
quite some
Like
time.
The Good Place should have broken him into like a household name. And that because that show was like unreal and he was so good in it. I'm so glad he's having his moment. All right, next after that, 50 years of magic celebrating the legacy of ILM. Come on, let's go. I want you just like park here for ILM stuff.
Yep.
And then the closing ceremony is at 3:30 p.m. I think the show actually ends at 5, but they do the closing ceremony starting at 3:30. So you'll get your, um, your video with all the wrap up from the week, and people are always on the lookout for like, did we make it into the video at the end?
Yeah.
Like they want to, that's always the big thing. Like, did you make it in or not?
And speaking of times to get your shopping done or any last few minute bits, usually as soon as the end ceremony happens, people are out the door as well. So that's
Hmm.
a perfect opportunity to get any bits done that you need to do.
Yeah, I'm nervous about the shopping because I know there are going to be things that I want. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get any of this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Oh, eBay, that might be the answer.
I'm sure you've got enough inside connections to get the job done.
You know what? So many of my friends are going to the show, including like most of the VCN, which is why we're hosting shows like this. We want to make sure you guys are all ready for
Yeah.
celebration. But I feel like everyone underestimates the amount of crap they end up buying. And so unless I want to charter a plane with all the extra things, I don't know how I'm going to get anything shipped over here.
Yeah. And make sure you know what your hold luggage weight limit is. Otherwise, you're going to have to put on a second case, which can be
Oh
pretty
yes,
costly.
yeah. Oh yeah, this is my husband. Mark's not buying anything. That is true. Let me tell you now, I'm trying to reduce my stuff. And this, like, I'm actually, so my setup changed. If you noticed from last time, I'm behind like my bookshelf over here. We've actually moved some furniture around in the office. And it's just my like shelves of trading cards and stuff that's just literally collecting dust. And at some point it's like, if I'm not actively using something, I've got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm on a kick of that right now.
Not to drop you in it or anything, Mark, but is your hubby lying to himself or is he just telling the truth?
No, he's being real. If anything, I might get a T-shirt. I love a T-shirt. I constantly need T-shirts. But like what I don't need, especially because I work for a costume company, is any more stuff coming into the house. Like I don't, and I've worked in collectibles for too long. But
Yeah,
look,
but
I want some
we all
swag.
say that, and that goes out the window. We lie to ourselves a lot of the
Yeah.
time. Where when you're speaking like that, it's either a case of you're an eternal optimist or you're completely delusional. It's
Mhm.
one or the other. You can't be both.
It's closer to Delulu. I'll go with that.
I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, when I went to Celebration in London, I was like, I'm not going to get anything. And we still came home with like 12 shirts and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff we didn't need. But we mostly here's the thing. My goal now is to spend money on experiences. So going to Celebration would be the spend of money and maybe meeting people and getting autographs and taking photos and more so than bringing home like this stormtroop this death trooper mug. Why?
Hmm.
Why do I have this? Like I have so many mugs and it doesn't even serve a purpose. There's nothing in it. There's like a cloth in it or something. I don't know. Like it's the kind of thing where I've now accumulated so much crap over the course of like 10 years working on this brand and 40 something years of being a nerd that
Yeah.
I need to start like,
Grogu stress ball. I've no idea
oh, there you go.
why. We have random
Yep.
stuff.
A stress ball is good. Like that's useful. And I will say anything ghost, I buy everything ghost. So if there's a ghost something, I will get it. But like even my little David Tennant over here, like I've had him forever, but
Hmm.
like at some point I don't need more of those. And so I have like 9 TARDISes like around between my office and here. And I was like, all right, I needed one. Why do I have 8? And that's where you have to like stop yourself of like, okay, this little TARDIS here that's specifically decorated as like the memorial TARDIS. Is probably the most interesting one, but it's not the most iconic version. So if I put it this way, now it's a regular TARDIS, right? So I can just use that.
Hmm.
I don't need 7. Meanwhile, I don't want to tell everyone in the chat though not to buy stuff. Like go buy to your heart's content, get whatever you want, whatever brings you joy, go spark the joy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to any Whovians in the chat as well. This isn't
Hmm.
just about Star Wars.
Never is, especially when there's good crossover. Tom Baker,
Yep.
he is the Bendu, and there's a million other connectivities as well.
I've,
I
I've started
still
I've started using that line. If somebody sees a picture, I also just want to go, "Where are you? I'm the Bendu."
Mhm. I think that he is so underrated in that role.
Hmm.
Chris is telling me I need 14 TARDISes. That is true. I do have to catch up. I'm a little behind the latest season. I started watching and then I fell off, and I know we've only got one more with Shooty potentially before they change doctors.
Hmm.
Again, it all seems
Was
so
his
fast.
was his contract only 3 years as well?
I think it was 2 to 3, and I think he's leaving after 2, but it's all rumors, right?
Same as Jodie, almost basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically. I nothing will ever top Tennant and Matt Smith, and I think that's what we're up against, right?
Hmm.
So, um, Bendu, a name or a title? Oh, that's a fair question because he does say he's the Bendu,
Yeah.
or his species type, right? Like, yep. Yeah, I am not sure. I'm sure we could look on the Wikipedia or ask Dave for like a proper answer there. I think it's his proper name. I think whatever he is, he is. Also, could his proper name, if he's the only of his kind, be the same as like his species, his name? It could all be like rolled into one kind of thing.
Same argument for Yoda, the Yoda species.
I hope at some point we eventually get a reveal as to what that species name is, just because it's frustrating from like a technical perspective to be like, oh, Grogu and Yaddle and Yoda are all the same species,
Yeah.
and none of them are defined. Like Grogu is one of the faces of the franchise now, the same way Yoda always was. Like they give us so much information about shit we don't need. Can I have this one critical piece of information we've all been dying to know?
And especially when Grogu starts speaking and his voice is going to be as deep as like Idris Elba or something
Yeah.
like that.
I can't wait for him to learn English and start having speaking roles. That's going to be really fun.
Yep.
Chris, I like that connection that you're saying that he's kind of like the Watcher in Marvel, which, as we find out, there are multiple Watchers,
Mm-hmm.
and there's someone over the Watcher. And if you watched What If season 3, oh man, there's a group of them, and they're a bunch of jerks. I love when these like crazy characters turn out to be even more unhinged. Um, Okay, we only have a couple stages left to talk about, so we'll go through them really quick. The HoloNet stage, again, these are a lot of the fan podcast. Good Morning Tatooine and Making Tracks. That looks like where the Fantha Tracks guys are going
Yeah,
to be. Yep.
definitely one that we would advise people to go to.
Yeah, they're the best. Love those guys. Uh, just they're a fantastic group of people across the board. So Martin and Mark and everyone love them. Friends of the Force, Space Waffles, and Dork Forces. Which that's just a great name, and I love
Yeah.
Space Waffles. Space Waffles too. That's really fun. Twin Sun stage. We've got another stream of Vision season 3, and then there's Disney Experiences building the galaxy within Imagineering. So this should be about the parks. So that should be really cool. The Fett Family at 1 o'clock. A screening of the Rebels finale. Which let me tell you, if I had going back to what you were saying though, there's other things to do. I've watched it 1,000 times. If the cast were going to be there, if Vanessa was going to be there, because she's one of the Rebels people who's at the show, maybe that's a reason. Or if you just want to see it on a big screen with all of your favorite people, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing. And then the closing ceremony is also there. After that, we've only got this is actually the last one, the university stage. History in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. Kurosawa, which I think that one would be really
All
interesting.
all day long, that would be the one I would be queuing for.
Yep.
100%.
I think that one, it's so weird that that's just like 11:15 on Sunday. Like, not a big deal. I feel like that should be getting a ton of attention.
I would have had
Um,
that as like a 2 o'clocker on day one or something like that, because I mean, if people aren't aware, like the inspiration from Kurosawa is just huge.
without a doubt. And then there's a droids panel, and then an ode to Starlight, the High Republic. The High Republic has one panel, unless you're counting some of the other Lucasfilm stuff, which I don't, Lucasfilm publishing stuff, which I don't think is included. So, so Explore the Force is saying that their topic on the HoloNet news stage is going to cover Kurosawa. That's terrific.
Beautiful. Yep.
Friday
Fantastic.
at 11:30. All right, we got you. You are on our list. I'm just double checking to make sure that on the HoloNet stage, right?
You know what? It's kind of one of the only times I'm glad not to see the name Blabba the Hutt on one of those panels, because I know the amount of work and dedication it takes to actually go into it.
Yeah, it is a ton of work. Look, just doing a regular podcast is hard enough, but then the way we have to prepare for this kind of thing, for a celebration, and that a million people are going to be watching,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure that's got to be overwhelming for sure. Um, yeah, so the HoloNet news stage at 11:30, Explore the Force. So I'm going to read out the description. Uh, Explore the Force, international Star Wars podcast and YouTube channel, discuss all things Star Wars and are a positive force in the community. We were talking about that earlier, how um, the people who are going to Celebration specifically are positive people in the fandom, and they want to be there and they love the brand. And we're excited to see everyone who's getting platforms for the show.
Hmm.
So that is everything that's happening. I'm going to change up our overlay. Um, there we go. We should be back. I want to remove this fully. Remove. Did they put us in the thing? No. Give me 1 second. It's that.
There we
Nope.
go.
There we go. Much better. So that was our listing of all the panels that are happening for Celebration. There are a ton. I would recommend everyone get the app. Also, get out a piece of paper and just like write out the ones that you desperately want to do, make a backup plan. I always put notes in my phone with times and stuff as well, or set alarms. That was my alarm that went off a little bit earlier because I set myself a reminder to do something after the show ends, and we're over time. So that's what that was. And yeah, if you set alarms for things, you can then better keep track of all the things that you want to do during celebration.
Yeah, and especially I think making a list is important. Like when I'm doing something like that, I call it the 2 A's, the 2 B's, and 2 C's.
Hmm.
2 first choices that I just cannot miss out on under any circumstances. B as a fallback, and then C, something maybe fun that you might have an opportunity to go to. Because whether it's a nice thing to say or not, you can write down your ideal plans of everything that you want to do. You're just going to have to throw it out the window because unfortunately, nobody gets 100% of their choices
No.
100% of the time. It just does not happen.
No, definitely not. And especially with autographing queues and photo ops, and then something may come out of nowhere that maybe you end up at a booth and you want to buy something, or you go
Yeah.
to like one of the fan areas. I remember queuing in line to do one of those like little photo op things where it looks like you were sitting on the throne of Mandalore. The whole thing took like 15 minutes, but then or 10 minutes or whatever it was. And then when I was in there just walking around, all of a sudden an hour had gone by. I was like, how long have I been in this like little area of like just fan activation on the floor?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So all of a sudden, like time evaporates, but it
Flying.
is
Yeah.
a blast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
100%.
all right. So that covers all the panels. Next week, we're going to talk about all the vendors that are coming to Celebration because, oh man, there are so many of them. But of course, don't forget that aside from Celebration, there's a million things to do outside of the event, including the Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition, which is sold out. But there is a Lightning Lane ticket available. So if you're not able to make it to the show or to the event, if you missed out the first time, we will have Lightning Lane access uh, basically during the final 2 hours for $50 as people are leaving because of the capacity of the building. And we just want to say thank you again to our sponsor, Hyperspace Props, for helping us put on the event. As always, if you place an order with them and use our code NSVCSE, that's Not So Virtual Cantina Special Edition, you'll save 10% on your order. And they, of course, do amazing props, including a lot of sabak chips. That's really
Yep.
their big claim to fame. The sabak game at the family vacation, we had it for 2 nights at both of the venues. That sabak game, man, made new friends formed because of the sabak game and new enemies. So it was a very, very fun time.
Who doesn't love playing sabak?
Yeah, I'm not great at it, I'll be honest, and I don't think most people were pretty skilled, but they all had the time of their lives. And of course, betting with fake money is always fun. So people just like lost their minds playing.
And of course, so important. It was a DLC then when in an expansion of Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah. It's crazy how that game has expanded from like a sort of throwaway line to like a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of everywhere. I mean, they played in Rebels. It's a good time. They played in Solo. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Oh, so Chris is asking, when is the app going to drop? I know. I don't know. It's coming very soon, is my understanding. For now, I'm using the website and literally taking notes in like a Word doc, and identifying like I know I want to go to that Mon Mothma panel if I were actually going. Um,
Yeah,
so
just
there's
take a couple of screenshots and shove it into an Excel sheet for now. Literally
yeah.
copy and paste the image in and just hold it there.
And of course, you have to work around your photo ops and autographs. I would say if you have your photo ops and autographs purchased, start blocking into your calendar when those times are, if they've given people times yet, and a little bit of time before and a little bit of time after. Give yourself some space, and then you can figure out like what panels are even feasible at that point. I think that's the most important thing, and you can start building a structure around that. The day evaporates very quickly. Like you get 8 hours each day, and if you have like 3 autographs, that could be 3 hours right there. So, and yeah, so Jeff is saying sketchy with the times. I believe it. It's usually a group. We'll put you in group 1, and that would be like 10 a.m. to 12 noon or something.
Yeah.
So hard to tell. More to come on that front. In fact, we will cover that as a topic in our next news desk. We're going to be back next Saturday,
Yeah.
and we're going to be talking about the vendors, and we'll talk a little more about the app and the times and stuff. That will probably be most of the focus of our final show before we get to Celebration. With basically the project managing and the time management planning and all that kind of stuff. Because yeah, the app is. I think everyone's times are still a little up for debate on autographs and photo ops, from what I could tell.
Yeah, and no doubt there's going to be still many twists and turns to that
Mhm.
saga a couple of days still before.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us for today. As always, reminder to follow everything that's going on the network. We've got a whole slew of new programming happening this week. Monday is a Star Wars Clone Wars revisited. As always, we're watching the micro series, which is stupid fun. So part
Mm-hmm.
2 of the micro series out of 4. We're breaking it into 4 chunks.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a new episode of the Nerf Herders Council. The Thursday Night Watch Along is back with another episode of Andor. We're actually nearing the end because we're only a few weeks away from Celebration. It'll end basically synced up with Celebration. And then a new Jedi Archives. So a lot going on over here.
Yep. Rightly so.
And what's going on with Blob of the Hutt?
We have a couple of interviews that we have recorded, which are due to release shortly. For those who are attending the Not So Virtual Cantina meetup at Celebration, you will get to meet the incredible Maria Sandoval, hair designer extraordinaire at ILM. Her interview with us will be dropping at 10 a.m. Irish time tomorrow. We will also have another interview lined up that we'll hopefully release next weekend with one of the best prop builders in the world, who was also behind the scenes in the Mandoverse and also worked on such things as Thor, Spider-Man, and Wakanda Forever, but more on that next week. But yeah, Maria's interview was due to drop tomorrow at 10 a.m. Irish time. So if anybody wants a morning listen, then feel free to head on over to our Spotify once it launches and have a listen to one of the most talented people within the industry chat very honestly and openly about the industry. You know, it's not all rose tinted glasses in Hollywood, and there's a very honest conversation about things that are going on within the industry. So it will make for a fantastic listen. Hopefully people will enjoy it.
Yeah, and I love Maria. She is
She's
terrific.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I also have a couple interviews coming up. I was at Toy Fair 2 weeks ago, and I've got a Rubies centric interview with a horror channel that I'll put up on my personal Facebook page. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also did an interview with the Rebel Scum guys to talk specifically about the Nuo Novo and talk a little bit about the event in Texas that's happening in August that we're working with them on. So that is live on the Rebel Scum channels. And then I interviewed with Mark Newbold over at Fanta Tracks last week. I'm trying to remember. It's all such a blur. That's coming up very soon. So once I know when that's going to hit, I'll let everyone know. So
And then
yeah,
when we can make time, we can finally sit down and talk about the new Nova.
please. Yeah, I think next time when we do this, we'll just like continue straight on and do like a whole specific. Be like, so
Yeah, too
Gary,
right.
thank you for having me. I love all of that because it's like we just did that at Toy Fair, and the amount of being on during Toy Fair is like so much, but it's such a great time. It's great to just see everyone, you know.
Yeah.
All right, well, that does it for us. Keep a lookout for all of us on social media as well, where we'll have more announcements, everything related to Celebration, and of course, like keep an eye on the Facebook page, the Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 Facebook page, as run by the Virtual Cantina Network. It's over 73,000 fans. We are your breaking news source. We're the #1 biggest Celebration fan page in the world, and you keep up there and you can see every little thing as it's happening. And then we'll continue to do these news desks to wrap up all the most important news weekly between now and Celebration. So thank you again for joining us. We will see you next Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, for another edition of the News Desk. And until then, may the force be with you.